Young man pays for the food of a poor orphan girl and her 2 newborn brothers. But he gets fired. A millionaire sees everything. Before we dive into the story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. The fluorescent lights of Walker's Convenience hummed overhead as Ethan Matthews finished restocking the candy aisle. At 18, with sandy brown hair perpetually falling into his eyes, he wasn't where he'd imagined he'd be a year after graduation. But the economy had hit his neighborhood hard, and college had to wait while he helped support his family. 15 minutes and we're free, said Mia, his co-worker, as she counted her register. Any plans tonight? Ethan smiled, patting his pocket, where an envelope held 2 weeks' worth of carefully saved tips. Finally got enough for Abby's birthday present. Going to pick up that art set she's been eyeing after work. The store was nearly empty this Tuesday evening, with only Mr. Peterson browsing the magazines and Mrs. Gonzalez selecting milk in the back. Ethan was halfway through his closing checklist when the bell above the door jingled. A girl no older than 12 stepped in, clutching the hand of what appeared to be her younger sister. Her clothes were clean but worn, her expression far too serious for someone so young. She approached the counter cautiously. "Can I help you?" Ethan asked, setting aside his clipboard. "I need formula and diapers," she said softly, eyes downcast, as she placed a small plastic container on the counter. Inside were carefully stacked coins and a few crumpled dollar bills. "For the twins." Something in her voice made Ethan's chest tighten. "Are your parents with you?" The girl shook her head slightly. "It's just us now. I'm Lily. I take care of them." Ethan nodded, not pressing further. "Let me help you find what you need." He guided Lily through the store, watching as she carefully selected the cheapest formula and the store-brand diapers, constantly glancing back at her money container, as if recalculating with each item. "This should be enough for a week," she whispered, more to herself than to Ethan. Her small hands trembled as she counted out the coins at the register. The total appeared on the screen, $43.76. Lily's face fell as she counted her money again. $37.42. Not enough. "I'm sorry," she mumbled, beginning to remove items. "I'll put back the wipes." Ethan glanced toward the manager's office, then back at the young girl. In her eyes, he saw his sister Abby, what she might become if something happened to their mother. Something twisted in his gut. "Wait," he said, reaching for his wallet. Without hesitation, he pulled out the envelope he'd been saving for weeks. "I've got this." Lily looked up, confused. "But it's okay," Ethan said, swiping his debit card before he could reconsider. "Keep your money for next time." Relief flooded. The girl's face quickly followed by suspicion, a look no child should know. "Why would you help us?" Ethan bagged the items carefully. "Because someone should." As he helped Lily load the supplies into her worn backpack, he noticed a black luxury car parked across the street, its driver watching them intently. Probably nothing, he thought. "Thank you," Lily whispered, her voice cracking slightly. "The babies? They'd be hungry without this. Do you need help getting home?" Ethan asked, concern growing as he considered her walking alone. She shook her head firmly. "We're close, and I know all the safe routes." As Lily disappeared down the street, Ethan felt the weight of eyes on him. His manager, Mr. Chambers, stood by the office door, arms crossed and expression dark. "Matthews, my office tomorrow morning." Ethan's stomach sank, but as he closed the register, he couldn't bring himself to regret his decision. Abby's birthday present would have to wait, and tomorrow might bring consequences, but tonight, somewhere in his neighborhood, 2 babies wouldn't go hungry. The black car pulled away from the curb, following in the direction Lily had gone. That night, lying in bed, Ethan stared at the ceiling, imagining the art set he'd planned to buy. Instead, he'd bought formula and diapers for a stranger's siblings. What would his mother say? What would happen at work tomorrow? Yet beneath the anxiety, a quiet certainty remained. In a world that had shown his family little kindness during their own struggles, he'd done the right thing. Whatever came next, he could face it knowing that. What Ethan couldn't know was that his simple act of compassion had set in motion events that would transform not only his life, but the lives of many others. The black car, the stern manager, and the brave young girl would all return to his story in ways he could never imagine. But for now, in the quiet darkness of his room, all he knew was that somewhere in the city, 3 orphaned children had what they needed tonight. Somehow, that was enough. Ethan arrived at Walker's Convenience 15 minutes early the next morning, his stomach in knots. The store was quiet, only the soft hum of refrigerators and the occasional beep of the scanner at the front register. Breaking the silence, Mr. Chambers was waiting in his cramped office, coffee mug in hand. His expression was unreadable as he gestured for Ethan to take a seat. "Do you know why I called you in here, Matthews?" The manager didn't look up from the papers on his desk. "I think so, sir." Ethan sat straight, determined to face whatever came. "You paid for a customer's items with your own money yesterday." Mr. Chambers finally looked up, his gaze stern. "Care to explain?" Ethan took a deep breath. "She was just a kid, sir, taking care of babies. She didn't have enough money and I—" "This isn't a charity, Matthews." Mr. Chambers cut him off sharply. "We have policies for a reason. What you did undermines our business model and creates liability issues." "Liability? For helping a child buy formula?" Ethan couldn't hide his confusion. The manager's face hardened. "For making independent decisions that affect this establishment. What if everyone started deciding which customers deserve free merchandise?" "It wasn't free. I paid for it myself. That's not the point." Mr. Chambers stood, towering over the desk. "The point is following protocol, something you've consistently failed to do." Ethan felt his face flush. He'd been written up once before, for giving expired but still good pastries to a homeless man instead of throwing them away as required. "I'm sorry, Matthews. I've got no choice here." The manager's voice was clinical now. "You're terminated, effective immediately. Turn in your name tag and collect your final paycheck next Friday." The words hit Ethan like a physical blow. Terminated. For helping a child. He removed his name tag slowly, placing it on the desk. "Sir, please, I need this job, my family." "You should have thought about that before breaking company policy." Again. Mr. Chambers returned to his paperwork. "That will be all." Outside. The morning sun seemed too bright, the street too loud. Ethan stood frozen on the sidewalk, reality sinking in. No job, no savings, no gift for Abby. All because he couldn't stand by and watch a child struggle. The walk home felt endless. His mother would be at work, her second job cleaning offices downtown. But Abby would be home, excited about her birthday tomorrow. How would he explain this? Their apartment building came into view, its worn brick exterior somehow more depressing today. Ethan climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavier than the last. "Finally!" Abby exclaimed when he opened the door. At 14, she was all energy and enthusiasm, her dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail. "Mom said you're bringing something awesome for my birthday. Can I have a hint?" Her eager smile was like a knife to his heart. Ethan set his keys down, struggling to find the right words. Something happened." Her smile faltered. "What's wrong?" "I lost my job today." "What? Why?" Abby followed him to the kitchen. "Did you do something?" Ethan filled a glass with water, avoiding her eyes. "I helped someone. A girl about your age. She was trying to buy formula for her baby siblings and didn't have enough money. So you got fired for being nice?" Abby's indignation was both comforting and painful. "For breaking policy," he corrected. "And now," he gestured helplessly. Understanding dawned in her eyes. "You don't have my present." "I'm so sorry, Abs. I had saved everything, but yesterday I used it to help her, and now—" "It's fine." Abby's voice was flat, her disappointment palpable despite her attempt to hide it. "It's just stuff, right?" She turned away, shoulders tight, and disappeared into her room. The soft click of her door closing felt louder than if she'd slammed it. Ethan slumped onto the couch, head in his hands. Their mother was already working herself to exhaustion. How would they manage with one less income? How many more birthdays and necessities would be sacrificed now? His phone buzzed with a text message, probably Mia asking what happened. Instead, he found a message from an unknown number. Your kindness was noticed. More than you know. Ethan stared at the cryptic message, baffled. Was this some kind of cruel joke? He tossed the phone aside, too overwhelmed to consider its meaning. That evening, his mother returned home, exhaustion etched in the lines around her eyes. When he told her about losing his job, she didn't yell or cry. She simply nodded, adding, "It to the mountain of worries she already carried." "We'll figure it out," she said, squeezing his shoulder. "We always do." But Ethan heard the tremor in her voice, saw the quick calculations happening behind her tired eyes. Later, as the apartment fell quiet, Ethan stood at the window overlooking the street. Somewhere out there was Lily and her siblings, facing challenges far greater than his. Had his sacrifice made any real difference for them, or had he just created new problems for his own family? His phone buzzed again. The same unknown number. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., corner of Maple and 5th, a chance to change everything. This time, Ethan didn't dismiss it. In a world that had just pulled the floor from beneath his feet, perhaps this mysterious message was worth investigating. After all, what more did he have to lose? The morning sun beat down mercilessly as Ethan paced on the corner of Maple and 5th, checking his phone every few minutes. It was 10:15 a.m., and no one had approached him. With each passing minute, he felt more foolish for believing the mysterious text might lead to something meaningful. "Just another cruel joke," he muttered, pocketing his phone and turning to leave. "Mr. Matthews." A smooth voice stopped him. "Apologies for my tardiness." Ethan turned to find a tall, elegantly dressed man in his 60s standing beside a black car, the same vehicle he'd noticed outside the store. The man's silver hair was impeccably styled, his suit clearly expensive, but it was his eyes that caught Ethan's attention, sharp and assessing, yet somehow kind. "I'm William Whitmore," the man said, extending his hand. "I believe we have matters to discuss." Ethan hesitated before shaking the offered hand. "You sent the messages? How do you know my name?" "I make it my business to know people worth knowing." Mr. Whitmore gestured toward his car. "Would you join me for coffee?" "I promise. All your questions will be answered." Everything about this screamed danger, yet something in the older man's demeanor inspired trust. Against his better judgment, Ethan nodded. The cafe Mr. Whitmore chose was small but elegant. After ordering, he leaned forward, fixing Ethan with that penetrating gaze. "I saw what you did for that young girl at the store." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. It wasn't anything special. On the contrary, Mr. Whitmore's voice was gentle but firm. In a world where most people walk past suffering without a second glance, you sacrificed something important to help a stranger. And lost my job for it, Ethan added bitterly. "Yes, an unfortunate consequence. Your manager lacks vision." The older man took a sip of his coffee. "But perhaps a blessing in disguise." Ethan scoffed. "Hard to see the blessing in not being able to pay rent." "Tell me, Ethan, what do you want from life? Beyond simply surviving." The question caught him off guard. Once, he'd had clear answers. College, a career in social work, making a difference. Now those dreams seemed childishly optimistic. "I used to think I could help people, make things better somehow," he admitted. "Now I just want to support my family." Mr. Whitmore nodded thoughtfully. "What if you could do both?" "Is this some kind of recruitment pitch? Because I'm not interested in selling anything or joining any—" "Nothing like that," Mr. Whitmore interrupted, amusement tinging his voice. "I run a foundation for children in need. We provide housing, education, medical care, and most importantly, dignity to those society has forgotten." Ethan's skepticism remained. "And what does this have to do with me?" "I'm looking for people who possess natural compassion, not the kind that comes from training or obligation, but the kind that acts instinctively, even at personal cost." Mr. Whitmore's eyes never left Ethan's. People like you. Before Ethan could respond, the cafe door opened, and a familiar small figure entered. Lily froze when she saw him, surprise evident on her face. Ethan, she approached cautiously, glancing between him and Mr. Whitmore. Lily? What are you doing here? Ethan stood, concern immediate. Are the babies okay? She nodded. They're with Miss Clara from Mr. Whitmore's foundation. I'm helping her today. She turned to the older man. You found him. Mr. Whitmore smiled warmly. I did indeed. Understanding dawned on Ethan. You know each other? Mr. Whitmore helped us after our parents died, Lily explained quietly. He found us that night you helped me. We're staying at his center now. Ethan sank back into his chair, pieces falling into place. The black car following Lily, the cryptic messages. It wasn't coincidence. You were watching me, he said to Mr. Whitmore, unsure whether to feel relieved or manipulated. I was observing, the older man corrected. I've been searching for someone with your qualities for a very specific position at my foundation. Lily touched Ethan's arm. He's good, Ethan, really. The twins have a proper crib now, and I'm going back to school, and… She stopped, emotion overtaking her. You should listen to him. After Lily left to complete her errand, Mr. Whitmore handed Ethan a business card. Embossed with a simple logo, a tree with spreading branches, the Whitmore Foundation. We serve children who have fallen through the cracks of our system. Foster children, orphans, those with incarcerated parents, all deserve better than what society currently offers them. And you want me to visit, see our work firsthand, then we can discuss possibilities. Mr. Whitmore stood, placing money on the table. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., the address is on the card. As the older man walked away, Ethan stared at the card, torn between hope and suspicion. His phone buzzed with a text from Abby. Mom's crying in her room. Something about the electric bill. When are you coming home? That evening, Ethan wandered through the park, the weight of his family's situation crushing him. The small apartment had become unbearable, his mother's forced optimism, Abby's quiet disappointment on her birthday. He'd left promising to look for job openings, but his heart wasn't in it. Sitting on a bench as twilight deepened around him, Ethan noticed a familiar figure on the swings. Lily, gently pushing herself back and forth, looking much younger than the serious girl he'd met at the store. Shouldn't you be at the center? He asked, approaching slowly. Lily looked up, startled but then relieved. Miss Clara brings me here sometimes. I like the swings. She patted the empty swing beside her. Want to try? Feeling slightly ridiculous, Ethan sat on the small swing. I'm too big for this. No one's too big for swings, she said with the certainty only children possess. They swung in companionable silence for a while before Lily spoke again. Are you coming tomorrow? To the foundation? Ethan sighed. I don't know, Lily. It seems too good to be true. That's what I thought, too. She dragged her feet, stopping her swing. After Mom and Dad died in the accident, nobody wanted 3 kids, especially with babies. They were going to separate us. Her voice grew quieter. Then Mr. Whitmore found us. He said families belong together. How did he find you? Lily shrugged. He just appears sometimes when people need help most. As darkness settled over the park, Ethan walked Lily back to a modest building with warm light spilling from its windows. A woman greeted them at the door, thanking Ethan for accompanying Lily. Walking home alone, Ethan found himself standing at a crossroads, literally and figuratively. To the left, the path back to his apartment. To right, the future Mr. Whitmore had hinted at. For the first time in days, he felt something stir within him. Not quite hope, but perhaps its precursor, possibility. The Whitmore Foundation occupied a converted brownstone in a quiet neighborhood, its brick facade distinguished only by a small, elegant sign bearing the tree logo from the business card. Ethan hesitated on the sidewalk, watching as staff and visitors entered and exited. Everyone seemed purposeful, engaged, a stark contrast to his own uncertainty. You planning to stand there all day? Ethan turned to find a young woman with vibrant red hair regarding him with amused curiosity. Her name badge identified her as Emily Dawson, Program Coordinator. "I'm meeting Mr. Whitmore," he explained, suddenly feeling underdressed in his best but worn button-down shirt. Recognition flickered in her eyes. "You must be Ethan. We've been expecting you." She extended her hand. "I'm Emily. Mr. Whitmore asked me to show you around, if you arrived before his meeting ended." The foundation's interior was unexpectedly bright and welcoming. What had once been formal rooms now housed various activity spaces. A library filled with colorful beanbags, a computer lab where teenagers worked on projects, and a playroom where toddlers built block towers under gentle supervision. "We currently support 63 children directly and provide resources to hundreds more through our outreach programs," Emily explained as they walked. "Some live here temporarily, others come for daily programs, and many just need a safe space between school and whenever their guardians get home from work." They paused at a nursery where a middle-aged woman was gently rocking an infant. One of Lily's brothers, Ethan realized. "That's Miss Clara with baby Noah," Emily confirmed when she noticed his gaze. "The twins are doing much better since they arrived. Lily's been amazing with them, but she needed support." "Where is Lily now?" "School, regular hours, homework help, normal kid stuff." Emily's voice softened. "That's the goal for all of them, as much normalcy as possible in often abnormal circumstances." As their tour continued, Ethan found himself increasingly drawn to the Foundation's atmosphere. Unlike the sterile, institutional environments he'd expected, each space felt thoughtfully designed to nurture children at different stages and with different needs. "Most of our staff were once in similar situations to these kids," Emily remarked, as they observed a group therapy session through a window. "It gives them unique insight." "Were you?" Ethan asked. Emily nodded, her expression momentarily vulnerable. "Foster care from 8 to 18. 10 homes in 10 years. She straightened, professionalism returning. "Mr. Whitmore found me working. 3 jobs to put myself through college. Said he needed people who understood the system from the inside." Before Ethan could respond, a familiar voice called his name. Mr. Whitmore approached, his stride energetic despite his age. "I see Emily has been showing you our little operation." He gestured toward his office. "Let's talk privately." The office reflected its occupant, elegant but not ostentatious, with numerous photographs of children at various Foundation events covering one wall. Mr. Whitmore settled behind his desk, studying Ethan thoughtfully. "Your impressions so far?" "Impressive," Ethan admitted. "Different from what I expected. Institutional care often fails children because it focuses on management rather than nurturing." Mr. Whitmore leaned forward. "We focus on the latter." "Why am I here, Mr. Whitmore, really?" Ethan asked directly. "I'm not qualified for social work. I don't have a degree or experience." "Experience comes in many forms, Ethan. You grew up caring for your sister while your mother worked multiple jobs. You sacrificed your own needs repeatedly for your family's benefit. And when faced with a child in need, a stranger, you acted without hesitation." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "You've been investigating me." "Researching," Mr. Whitmore corrected. Gently. "I don't invite just anyone into our Foundation family. And what exactly are you inviting me to do?" "Initially assist with our youth mentoring program. Many of our teenagers need guidance from someone closer to their age, someone who understands their circumstances without condescension." Mr. Whitmore slid a folder across the desk. "The position includes competitive compensation, health benefits, and educational assistance should you wish to pursue your degree." Ethan stared at the folder, speechless. The salary figure alone would solve his family's immediate financial crisis. "Why me?" he finally managed. "There must be hundreds of qualified people." "Qualifications can be acquired. Character cannot." Mr. Whitmore stood, gazing at the photographs on his wall. "I was orphaned myself, Ethan. I know what it is to be vulnerable, to depend on the kindness of others. That experience shaped every aspect of this foundation. He turned back to Ethan, his expression serious. I don't need another social worker with perfect credentials. I need someone who instinctively does the right thing, even when it costs them everything. A soft knock interrupted them. Lily stood in the doorway, school backpack still on her shoulders, eyes lighting up when she saw Ethan. You came, she exclaimed. Mr. Whitmore smiled warmly. Lily, perfect timing. Would you show Ethan the garden? I believe the twins are out there with Miss Clara. As they walked through the sunlit garden where children of various ages played, Lily chatted excitedly about her new school and friends. Near a small fountain, Miss Clara sat with the twins, now alert and cooing in a double stroller. They're getting so big, Ethan remarked, kneeling to their level. That's what happens when babies get proper care, Miss Clara said, her gentle southern accent wrapping around the words. Regular meals, medical attention, love, works wonders. One of the twins, Lily identified him as Elijah, reached out, grabbing Ethan's finger with surprising strength. Something shifted inside him at that. Simple contact. Are you going to work here? Lily asked hopefully. Ethan met her eyes, then glanced around the garden at the children playing. Safe, cared for, given a chance at normalcy, despite their difficult circumstances. I think I might, he said softly, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. Later, as Ethan signed the employment paperwork in Mr. Whitmore's office, he felt an unfamiliar sensation, something between relief and purpose. You've made a wise decision, Mr. Whitmore said, accepting the signed forms, not just for yourself, but for the children you'll impact. I hope I don't disappoint you, Ethan replied honestly. You won't. Mr. Whitmore's confidence was absolute. You'll face challenges, certainly. This work isn't easy. But remember why you're here, because when it mattered most, you chose compassion over convenience. As Ethan left the foundation that evening, employment contract in hand and a start date set for the following Monday, he felt lighter than he had in months. The sun was setting over the city, casting long shadows, but for once, the gathering. Darkness didn't feel like an omen. His phone chimed with a text from his mother. Any luck with the job search? For the first time in days, he smiled as he typed his reply. You won't believe what just happened. Ethan's first week at the Whitmore Foundation passed in a blur of training sessions, introductions, and learning the rhythms of his new workplace. By Friday afternoon, he sat in the staff lounge during his break, mentally reviewing everything he'd absorbed. The foundation was more complex than he'd initially realized, with programs ranging from emergency housing to legal advocacy for children. In the system, surviving so far? Emily dropped into the chair across from him, sliding a coffee his way. Barely, Ethan admitted with a tired smile. There's so much to learn. You're doing better than most. The kids already like you. She took a sip from her own cup, especially the teenagers, which is saying something. They usually take weeks to warm up to new staff. Before Ethan could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from Lucas, his former co-worker from Walker's Convenience. Need to talk. Important. Meet at Jefferson Park after your work? Ethan frowned at the cryptic message. Problem? Emily asked, noticing his expression. Not sure. Old friend from the store wants to meet. He pocketed his phone. Probably just checking in. Hours later, Ethan spotted Lucas pacing near the park's central fountain, constantly glancing over his shoulder. His nervous energy was palpable even from a distance. Hey, Ethan called, approaching. What's going on? Lucas jumped, then relaxed slightly when he recognized Ethan. Thanks for coming. I wasn't sure you would. Of course I would. What's this about? Lucas guided them to a secluded bench, still scanning the area as if expecting to be followed. It's about what happened at the store, with that girl and why you got fired. Ethan's interest sharpened. What about it? There's something you don't know. Lucas lowered his voice. Remember how the girl, Lily, right, said she didn't have enough money? Ethan nodded. Well, she did. Lucas's words came faster now. Or she should have. I saw it, Ethan. I was taking out trash when she first arrived at the store. She dropped some money in the parking lot, a 20 and some smaller bills, and I saw who picked it up. Who? Blake Chambers, the manager's son. Lucas's expression darkened. He saw who dropped it too. But instead of returning it, he pocketed it and walked away. I would have said something, but he's already got it out for me since I reported him for harassment last month. Ethan sat back, the implications sinking in. So Lily came up short because Blake stole from her, and then I got fired for helping her? It gets worse, Lucas continued. After you were fired, I started noticing things. Blake's always hanging around the register during shifts with elderly customers or kids, and money keeps going missing. Small amounts the manager writes off as counting errors. He's stealing regularly, and his father covers for him? Lucas nodded, grimly. I tried telling the district manager, but Mr. Chambers intercepted the complaint. That's why I needed to tell you in person, after seeing what happened to you. He hesitated. It's not right, Ethan. You lost your job for helping someone, while Blake gets away with actual theft. Ethan's mind raced. This revelation explained so much, but it also ignited a sense of injustice he couldn't ignore. Blake had effectively stolen from orphan children, then stood by while Ethan took the fall for trying to help them. Have you told anyone else? Ethan asked. Who would believe me without proof? It's my word against the manager's son. Lucas checked his watch nervously. I've got to get back for my evening shift. I just thought you should know. After Lucas left, Ethan remained on the bench, processing this new information. His instinct was to confront Blake directly, to demand justice. But what would that accomplish? Blake was protected by his father's position, and any accusation would likely backfire on Lucas, who still needed his job. The sky darkened as Ethan walked home, his thoughts tumultuous. When he reached his apartment building, he was surprised to find Mr. Whitmore waiting beside his sleek black car. Mr. Whitmore? How did you know where I live? The older man smiled. Your employment paperwork, of course. And please call me William. I was hoping we might continue our conversation from earlier this week, perhaps over dinner. At a small Italian restaurant in a quieter part of the city, William ordered for them both with the ease of a regular patron. Once they were alone, his expression grew more serious. You seem troubled, Ethan. Is everything all right at the foundation? The foundation is wonderful, Ethan assured him quickly. It's something else. He found himself explaining Lucas's revelation, the words pouring out before he could consider their appropriateness. William listened intently, his expression thoughtful. Injustice is a difficult burden to bear, especially when you're directly affected, he said when Ethan finished. What do you plan to do with this information? I don't know, Ethan admitted. Part of me wants to expose Blake, but that would put Lucas at risk. And honestly, what proof do I have? Sometimes direct confrontation isn't the wisest path, William said, cutting his pasta with precise movements. Justice often finds its own way, provided someone sets it in motion. What does that mean? William's eyes held a knowing glint. It means that information properly channeled can create change without personal risk. The question is, what outcome do you truly want? Ethan considered this. I want Blake and his father held accountable. I want them to understand the harm they've caused, but mostly, I want to make sure they can't hurt anyone else, especially vulnerable people like Lily. Noble goals, William nodded approvingly, though I suspect there's a part of you that also wants vindication. Ethan couldn't deny it. The humiliation of being fired, of failing his sister on her birthday, those wounds were still fresh. There's nothing wrong with wanting justice for yourself as well as others, William continued. The key is ensuring your actions serve the greater good, not merely personal satisfaction. As they finished their meal, William handed Ethan a business card, not his own, but one bearing the name Catherine Reynolds Financial Crimes Division. A former foundation child, now with the prosecutor's office, William explained. If your friend Lucas is willing to make an official statement, Catherine would ensure it reaches the right people. Ethan stared at the card, a new possibility, taking shape. You think this could work? I think justice rarely comes from one grand gesture. More often, it's the result of many small acts of courage. William signaled for the check. Like a young man buying formula for a stranger's siblings, perhaps. Later that night, Ethan called Lucas, carefully outlining the potential path forward. To his surprise, Lucas agreed immediately. I'm tired of being afraid at my own job, Lucas said. If this Catherine person can help without Mr. Chambers tracing it back to me, I'm in. As Ethan lay in bed that night, he reflected on the day's revelations. The world seemed larger somehow, more intricately connected than he'd previously understood. William Whitmore, Catherine Reynolds, Lucas Blake Lilly, each life intersecting with his own in ways he couldn't have predicted a week ago. For the first time since losing his job, Ethan felt a sense of agency returning. Whatever happened next, he was no longer simply reacting to circumstances beyond his control. He was participating in something larger, something that might, with patience and courage, bend toward justice. 3 weeks into his new position at the Whitmore Foundation, Ethan found himself settling into routines that would have been unimaginable a month earlier. His days were filled with mentoring sessions, activity planning, and the organized chaos that came with supporting dozens of children with complex needs. But as he walked home one evening, the sense of accomplishment from his workday faded. There a apartment building came into view, its aging facade a stark reminder of the financial reality his family still faced. His new salary, while a blessing, hadn't magically erased years of accumulated debt. "Mom," Ethan called, entering the apartment. He found Mary Matthews at the kitchen table, surrounded by bills, her face drawn with exhaustion despite her attempt at a welcoming smile. "You're home late," she observed, quickly gathering the papers into a pile. "How was work?" "Good." "The teenagers. You're organizing a talent show next month." Ethan set his backpack down, eyeing the partially hidden bills. "Those look serious," Mary sighed, her facade crumbling slightly. "Just the usual juggling act. Nothing for you to worry about." "Mom, I'm not a kid anymore. Let me see." Reluctantly, she spread the papers out again. Ethan's stomach tightened as he assessed their situation. 2 months behind on electricity, a final notice for water, medical bills from his mother's emergency room visit last winter still unpaid. "My first full paycheck comes next week," Ethan said, calculating mentally. "We can catch up on the utilities and start on the medical bills." "Your money should go toward your future, not cleaning up our past," Mary protested. "I picked up extra shifts at the hospital. We'll manage." "You're already working 60 hours a week. That's not sustainable." The apartment door opened before Mary could respond. Abby entered, school backpack slung over one shoulder, her expression brightening when she saw Ethan. "Finally. I need help with this college application essay. It's due tomorrow and I'm completely stuck." "College application?" Ethan exchanged a look with his mother. "I thought you were waiting until spring. Early admission to state has better financial aid packages," Abby explained, pulling papers from her backpack. "Ms. Winters says I have a real chance at a full scholarship if I apply now." Pride and anxiety warred within Ethan. His sister's intelligence had always been evident, but the prospect of college expenses, even with scholarships, added another layer of financial pressure. Later that night, after helping Abby polish her essay, Ethan sat alone in the kitchen, revisiting the bills his mother had tried to hide. The numbers refused to add up, no matter how he arranged them. His salary was good, but not enough to dig them out quickly while supporting ongoing expenses. His phone chimed with a message from Emily. "Got approved for the teen weekend project. Budget meeting tomorrow to finalize details." Ethan smiled despite his stress. The weekend activity program had been his idea, providing structure and community service opportunities for the foundation's teenagers. William had immediately supported the concept, authorizing Emily and Ethan to develop a formal proposal. Another message arrived, this one from Lucas. "Meeting with Catherine tomorrow. Nervous but ready." This news brought both satisfaction and concern. Lucas had agreed to provide a formal statement about Blake Chambers' theft and his father's complicity, but the process was moving slower than expected. Catherine needed to build a proper case, gathering additional evidence to support Lucas's claims. Sleep proved elusive that night. Ethan alternated between anxiety about his family's finances and anticipation about his foundation projects. When his alarm finally sounded at 6 a.m., he'd barely rested at all. The foundation hummed with activity when Ethan arrived. He found Emily in the conference room, spreadsheets and planning documents arranged neatly before her. "You look terrible," she observed bluntly. "Thanks. Just what every guy wants to hear first thing in the morning." Emily's expression softened. "Seriously, are you okay? You seem distracted lately." Ethan hesitated. He'd been careful to maintain a professional demeanor at work, keeping his personal struggles private. But something about Emily's genuine concern broke through his defenses. "Family stuff," he admitted. "Financial mostly. My mom's been carrying the load for years and I'm trying to help catch up, but it's..." He gestured vaguely. "Overwhelming?" Emily supplied. When he nodded, she continued, "I get it. First real job, adult responsibilities crashing down all at once." Something like that. Emily considered him for a moment. "You know, the foundation has an emergency assistance program for staff. It's not widely advertised, but William created it for situations exactly like yours." "I couldn't," Ethan protested immediately. "I haven't even been here a month." "It's not charity," Emily countered. "It's structured as a zero-interest loan, repaid gradually through payroll deductions, designed to help break the cycle of late fees and compounding debt." The offer was tempting, perhaps too tempting. "I need to think about it." Emily nodded, respecting his hesitation. "Just know it's an option now about this budget." They spent the next hour finalizing details for the weekend program, Ethan gradually relaxing into the work he loved. By lunchtime, they had a comprehensive plan ready to present to William. As they packed up their materials, Emily's phone rang. Her expression shifted as she listened to the caller. "We'll be right there," she said, ending the call. "There's a situation with Lily." They hurried to the counseling wing, where they found Lily sitting outside the therapist's office, her small frame tense with distress. "What happened?" Ethan asked, crouching to her level. "They want to separate us," Lily whispered, her voice breaking. "A family wants to adopt the twins, but not me. Miss Clara says they can't do that, but what if they can? What if they take my brothers away?" Emily exchanged a concerned glance with Ethan. "Let me check what's happening," she said, disappearing. Into the office. Left alone with Lily, Ethan struggled to find the right words. "Lily, listen to me. Mr. Whitmore promised you'd stay together, remember? He doesn't break his promises." "But what if it's not up to him?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. "What if a judge decides?" The vulnerability in her question struck Ethan deeply. Despite the foundation's protection, Lily still lived with the fundamental insecurity of a child who had lost everything once before. Emily emerged from the office, her expression carefully neutral. "The counselor wants to speak with you, Ethan." Inside, Dr. Martinez explained the situation. A wealthy couple had indeed expressed interest in adopting infant twins, unaware that Noah and Elijah had an older sister. When informed, they hesitated. "We're not permitting any separation," Dr. Martinez assured him. But Lily overheard part of the conversation with the adoption coordinator and jumped to conclusions. "She's terrified," Ethan said, "after everything she's been through. Which is why we need your help. She trusts you. Would you be willing to accompany her to a meeting with Mr. Whitmore? He wants to personally reassure her about our commitment to keeping their family intact." That afternoon, Ethan sat beside Lily in William's office as the older man gently explained the Foundation's absolute policy against separating siblings. "Your brothers will not be adopted without you, Lily," William promised, his tone leaving no room for doubt. "That is my personal guarantee." The relief in Lily's eyes was immediate, but Ethan noticed she still clutched his hand tightly. "What if..." she began hesitantly. No what-ifs, William interrupted kindly. Family belongs together. That will never change while I have anything to say about it. As they left the office, Lily's steps were lighter, her fear temporarily allayed. But Ethan's mind was troubled by the fragility of her security, and by extension, the precarious situations of all the children under the Foundation's care. That evening, as he walked home beneath gathering storm clouds, Ethan made his decision. He would accept Emily's offer of financial assistance. His family needed stability now, not pride. The rain began just as he reached their building, fat droplets quickly becoming a downpour. Somehow it felt fitting, a physical manifestation of the pressures that had been building for weeks. But as he climbed the stairs to their apartment, Ethan felt a curious sense of relief. The path forward wasn't clear yet, but at least now he was facing their challenges head-on, with new resources and possibilities he hadn't imagined possible just weeks ago. "You're sure about this?" Emily asked as she slid the financial assistance application across her desk. "No pressure either way." Ethan nodded, taking the form. "My family needs this. Pride won't pay our electric bill." It had been 2 days since he'd decided to accept help, and though the decision still felt uncomfortable, the relief was undeniable. The Foundation's emergency program would cover their most pressing debts, allowing them to start fresh without the crushing weight of compounding late fees. "William will approve it by tomorrow," Emily assured him. "The funds should be available by Friday." "I don't know how to thank you," Ethan began, but Emily waved him off. "Thank William. This program was his idea, one of many ways he tries to take care of his staff so they can focus on taking care of the kids." The mention of William sparked Ethan's curiosity. Despite working closely with the older man for nearly a month, he realized how little he actually knew about him. "How long have you known him?" Ethan asked. Emily's expression softened. 7 years. He found me during my last semester of college. I was working 3 jobs, sleeping maybe 4 hours a night, and barely staying afloat. She smiled at the memory. He showed up at the diner where I was waiting tables, left a ridiculous tip, and came back the next day with a job offer. Just like that, William has a talent for finding people at critical junctures in their lives, Emily said thoughtfully. It's like he has a sixth sense for potential, not just what someone is, but what they could become with the right opportunity. Their conversation was interrupted by Ethan's phone. Catherine Reynolds was calling, the prosecutor Lucas had been working with on the Walker's convenience case. "I should take this," Ethan said, stepping into the hallway. "Catherine?" "Ethan." "Good. I need to update you on the Chambers situation." Her voice was crisp, professional. "We've been building our case quietly, but things are accelerating. The investigation uncovered more than we expected." "What do you mean?" "The theft your friend witnessed wasn't isolated. We've found evidence of systematic fraud, altered inventory records, skimmed cash deposits, even manipulation of employee time cards to reduce payroll." Ethan leaned against the wall, stunned. "All from Blake and his father?" "Primarily, yes, but the district manager was aware and taking a cut to look the other way. We're talking about a pattern going back at least 3 years. So what happens now?" "A formal investigation launches next week. I wanted you to know because your friend Lucas will be called to provide an official statement. Blake and Mr. Chambers will likely be removed from their positions pending the outcome." After ending the call, Ethan stood motionless in the hallway, processing this development. The thought of Blake and his father facing consequences for their actions brought a complex mixture of satisfaction and unease. He'd wanted justice, but the reality of it, the potential destruction of livelihoods and reputations, felt heavier than he'd anticipated. His thoughts were interrupted by a commotion from the main activity room. Following the sound, he found a group of teenagers clustered around a new arrival, a boy about 16, tall and lanky with defiant eyes that scanned the room suspiciously. "Ethan!" William called, gesturing him over. "Perfect timing. This is Marcus. He'll be staying with us while his situation stabilizes. I'd like you to help him get settled." Marcus regarded Ethan with undisguised skepticism. Another social worker? Great. Not exactly, Ethan replied honestly. I'm new here myself, still figuring most of it out. Something in this admission seemed to surprise Marcus. His posture remained defensive, but his expression softened slightly. Whatever. Just show me where I'm sleeping. As Ethan guided Marcus through the facility, he recognized in the boy's tense shoulders and wary eyes a reflection of his own recent experience. The disorientation of life suddenly changing direction. The struggle to accept help without feeling diminished by it. It gets easier, Ethan said quietly as they reached the dormitory wing. Not right away, but it does. Marcus glanced at him, a flash of vulnerability crossing his face before his guard returned. You don't know anything about me. True, Ethan acknowledged. But I know what it's like when everything changes overnight. When you feel like you've lost control of your own story. The boy didn't respond, but his silence felt less hostile as Ethan helped him settle into his assigned room. Later that afternoon, Ethan found himself alone with William in the Foundation's small garden, discussing Marcus's arrival and the upcoming weekend program for the teens. You handled Marcus well, William observed. He responds better to authenticity than authority. He reminds me of me, Ethan admitted. Angry at circumstances beyond his control, suspicious of sudden benevolence. William nodded thoughtfully. The most effective mentors are often those who remember their own struggles clearly. It creates capacity for genuine empathy. A comfortable silence fell between them as they watched butterflies flutter among the late summer flowers. Ethan felt an increasing curiosity about this enigmatic man who had so dramatically altered his trajectory. Emily mentioned you have a talent for finding people at critical moments, Ethan said carefully. Is that how you found me? Or was it really just coincidence that you witnessed what happened with Lily? William's eyes crinkled with amusement. I've never been a great believer in coincidence, Ethan. Let's just say I pay attention to patterns most people overlook. What kinds of patterns? Moments of authentic character, when people reveal who they truly are through their actions, especially when they believe no one is watching. William's gaze was penetrating but kind. Your interaction with Lily was one such moment. Ethan considered this. So you were, what, testing me? Observing, William corrected gently. There's a difference. A test implies pass or fail criteria. I was simply witnessing your natural response to a challenging situation. Before Ethan could pursue this further, his phone chimed with a text from his mother. Good news. Abby's application for early admission was accepted. Celebration dinner tonight? Joy surged through him, temporarily displacing his questions about William. My sister got early admission to state, he explained, unable to contain his smile. She's brilliant. Always. It's been. Congratulations to her, William said warmly. Family achievements are to be celebrated. Take the evening off if you'd like. The Foundation will still be here tomorrow. That night, as Ethan watched his mother and sister laugh over a modest but joyful dinner, he felt a curious sense of transition. The weight of their financial struggles remained, but it no longer seemed insurmountable. Solutions were taking shape, possibilities opening where before there had only been dead ends. I can't believe it, Abby said for perhaps the 10th time, rereading her acceptance letter. And Ms. Winters thinks the scholarship is practically guaranteed with my grades and essay. Of course it is, Ethan assured her, his chest tight with pride. They'd be crazy not to invest in you. Later, helping his mother with dishes while Abby called friends to share her news, Ethan felt a moment of perfect clarity. This was why he'd accepted William's offer, why he'd swallowed his pride to take financial assistance. Not just for material stability, but for this. The light in his sister's eyes, the easing of the permanent worry lines around his mother's mouth. You're different these days, Mary observed, handing him a plate to dry. More settled somehow. The Foundation's been good for me, Ethan admitted. It's not just a job, it feels like. He hesitated, searching for the right words. Purpose? His mother suggested. Yeah. Ethan nodded, surprised by how perfectly she'd captured it. Exactly that. As they finished cleaning up, Ethan's phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. Surprising, since he hadn't given the teen his number. Emily said I should text if I needed anything. Do you guys have any books that aren't for little kids or about dealing with trauma? Just regular books. Fiction, maybe. The simple request revealed volumes about the boy beneath the defensive exterior. Someone seeking temporary escape through stories. Normalcy amid disruption. Libraries got a great selection. Ethan typed back, I'll show you tomorrow. Any particular interests? The reply came quickly. Sci-fi, maybe? Something about different worlds? Ethan smiled at the resonance of the request. Different worlds indeed. Wasn't that what they were all navigating now? New landscapes of possibility that had seemed unimaginable just weeks before. Got it, he replied. We'll find something good. 6 weeks into his role at the Whitmore Foundation, Ethan had developed a comfortable rhythm. His mentoring sessions with the teenagers showed promising results, particularly with Marcus, whose initial hostility had gradually mellowed into cautious engagement. The weekend program they'd launched was thriving, giving the Foundation's teens structured activities and community service opportunities. At home, things had stabilized as well. With the Foundation's financial assistance, they'd cleared their most pressing debts. His mother had been able to reduce her work hours slightly, and Abby was excitedly preparing for college, her scholarship confirmed as predicted. Earth to Ethan, Emily said, waving a hand in front of his face. They were reviewing activity plans in the staff lounge, but his mind had wandered. You've been staring at that same page for 5 minutes. Sorry, Ethan blinked, refocusing. Just thinking about how much has changed. Emily smiled knowingly. That tends to happen around here. William has a way of creating seismic shifts in people's lives. Speaking of William, Ethan said, checking his watch. Isn't it strange he's missed our last 3 planning meetings? He's usually so involved with new programs. He travels occasionally, Emily replied, though Ethan detected a hint of uncertainty in her voice. Foundation business in other cities. Before Ethan could press further, his phone buzzed with a text from William himself. Need to speak with you. Car waiting outside. Important. Emily raised an eyebrow when he showed her the message. Mysterious as ever. You'd better go. Outside, the familiar black car waited at the curb. The driver, a stoic man Ethan had seen with William before, opened the door silently. Where are we going? Ethan asked as they pulled away from the Foundation. Mr. Whitmore will explain everything, sir. 20 minutes later, they arrived at what appeared to be a private medical facility, sleek and modern, with discreet signage and security personnel at the entrance. The driver led Ethan through a series of corridors to a private suite where William waited. The shock of seeing his mentor in a hospital bed, monitors beeping softly beside him, stopped Ethan in his tracks. William looked smaller somehow, his usual vitality dimmed, though his eyes remained alert and sharp. Ah, Ethan, thank you for coming. William gestured to a chair beside the bed. Please, sit. What happened? Are you all right? Ethan asked, struggling to reconcile this image with the energetic man he knew. William smiled faintly. A minor cardiac event, they're calling it. Nothing immediately life-threatening, but a reminder nonetheless. He adjusted his position slightly. I've been managing a heart condition for several years. Usually quite successfully, but occasionally it demands attention. Why didn't you say anything? The Foundation staff should know. The Foundation functions best without unnecessary worry, William interrupted gently. Emily knows, of course, as do a few others, but I prefer not to make my health a matter of general concern. Something in his tone suggested there was more to this conversation than a health update. Ethan waited, sensing William would come to his point in his own time. I've been watching you closely these past weeks, Ethan. William's gaze was evaluative but kind. Your work with the children, particularly the more challenging cases like Marcus. Your financial management since receiving assistance. Your continued support of your family while building a life of your own. I'm just doing my job, Ethan said, uncomfortable with the assessment. No, you're doing considerably more than your job description requires. William reached for a folder on his bedside table. Which is why I've asked you here today. There are things about the foundation, about me, that you should know. He handed Ethan the folder. Inside were legal documents, financial statements, and photographs, decades of them, showing William in various locations around the world, often with children who appeared to be in difficult circumstances. The Whitmore Foundation isn't just a local operation, William explained, as Ethan examined the materials. It's part of a larger network I established 30 years ago, with branches, in 17 cities across 9 countries. Ethan looked up, startled. I had no idea it was so extensive. By design. Each branch operates with significant autonomy, united by common principles rather than centralized control. William's expression grew more serious. The work we do often intersects with powerful interests, political, commercial, sometimes criminal. A lower profile serves our purposes better. The implications of this were still sinking in when William continued, his voice quieter now. What I'm about to tell you must remain between us for the moment. Can I trust your discretion, Ethan? Ethan nodded, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension tightening his chest. I wasn't born William Whitmore, the older man began. That name, and the identity attached to it, was created when I was 22. After I inherited a substantial fortune from a family that had, quite frankly, done considerable harm in amassing it. He paused, seeming to measure Ethan's reaction before continuing. My birth name was Edward Holloway. My father, Richard Holloway, built his empire through means that were often legal but rarely ethical, exploiting vulnerable communities, manipulating local governments, destroying environments for profit. Ethan struggled to process this revelation. You changed your identity to escape that legacy? Not to escape it, to transform it. William's voice strengthened with conviction. I couldn't return what had been taken, but I could redirect those resources toward healing similar harms. Every foundation branch is strategically located in a community my father's businesses damaged in some way. The pieces began falling into place in Ethan's mind. William's passionate commitment to children in crisis, his emphasis on long-term, structural solutions rather than temporary charity, his personal interest in Lily's family staying together. My father separated families when it served his interests, William continued as if reading Ethan's thoughts. Displaced communities, created economic conditions that forced parents to leave children behind while seeking work. The consequences echo through generations. So the foundation is your way of making amends, Ethan said softly. It's my life's work. William adjusted himself again, wincing slightly. Which brings me to why you're here. My physicians are recommending procedure, one with an excellent prognosis but requiring significant recovery time. How long will you be away from the foundation? Several months potentially, and I need someone I trust implicitly to oversee certain aspects of our work during that time. William's gaze was steady, intent. I'm asking you to temporarily step into an expanded role, Ethan, working closely with Emily and our senior staff, but with specific responsibilities that require particular judgment. Ethan felt a wave of inadequacy. I've only been here 6 weeks. Surely there are others with more experience. Experience can be acquired, William interrupted. Character is revealed. You've demonstrated precisely the qualities needed for this role. Compassion balanced with practicality, integrity even at personal cost, and perhaps most importantly, the ability to see beyond surface circumstances to underlying truths. The weight of what William was asking settled on Ethan's shoulders. What exactly would this role involve? William smiled, something like relief crossing his features. Emily will brief you on the operational details. For now, I simply need to know, are you willing to help me ensure the Foundation's work continues uninterrupted during my absence? Looking into William's eyes that had seen something in him when he was just a cashier making a small decision of conscience, Ethan felt a certainty that transcended his doubts. Yes, he said firmly. I'll do whatever you need. The relief. William's expression deepened. Thank you, Ethan. I had hoped, expected even, that would be your answer. He reached for a small bell beside his bed. Now, I believe it's time for you to meet someone else integral to our work. The door opened, revealing a tall, distinguished woman in her 50s. Her presence commanded immediate attention, though. Her smile was warm as she approached. Ethan, this is Victoria Reynolds, Catherine's mother and my oldest friend. She serves as the Foundation's chief legal counsel and will be your primary guide in the weeks ahead. Victoria extended her hand, her grip firm and confident. Mr. Whitmore speaks very highly of you, Ethan. We have much to discuss. As they left William to rest, Ethan's mind reeled with the implications of what he'd learned. The Foundation and William himself were far more complex than he'd imagined. And now, inexplicably, he was being drawn deeper into this world, entrusted with responsibilities he couldn't yet fully comprehend. Victoria led him to a sleek conference room elsewhere in the facility. William has been planning this transition for some time, she explained, though his cardiac event accelerated our timeline. I still don't understand why he chose me, Ethan admitted. I'm hardly qualified. Victoria's expression softened slightly. William doesn't select people based on conventional qualifications, Ethan. He sees patterns, potentials, character revealed in critical moments. She smiled. Much like he saw in me 30 years ago, when I was a struggling single mother working 3 jobs while attending law school. The parallels weren't lost on Ethan. Once again, he found himself wondering about the seemingly random circumstances that had brought him into William's orbit, and whether they had been random at all. The Whitmore Foundation maintains 3 types of operations, Victoria explained, sliding documents across the conference table. Public programs, like the one you've been working with. Strategic initiatives, longer-term projects addressing systemic issues. And emergency interventions, immediate responses to crisis situations involving children. It was Ethan's 3rd meeting with Victoria since William's hospitalization, and the scope of the Foundation's work continued to astonish him. What he'd initially perceived as a local community organization was in reality a sophisticated network with global reach and significant resources. Your temporary role will focus primarily on our public programs, Victoria continued, but with oversight responsibilities for certain strategic initiatives that William was personally managing. And the emergency interventions? Ethan asked. Victoria exchanged a glance with Emily, who had joined them for this briefing. Those are handled by specialized teams. You'll be informed when necessary, but direct involvement will be limited for now. The careful phrasing suggested boundaries around information. Boundaries Ethan suspected were as much for his protection as for operational security. William's surgery is scheduled for tomorrow, Victoria added. The medical team is optimistic, but his recovery will take time. We'll need you to step into your expanded role immediately. The following day passed in a blur of briefings, introductions to staff Ethan hadn't previously met, and mountains of information to absorb. By evening, he retreated to his small office, mind reeling with newfound responsibility. Overwhelming, isn't it? Emily appeared in his doorway carrying 2 cups of coffee. The first time William showed me the full scope of operations, I didn't sleep for 3 days. Ethan accepted the coffee gratefully. I still don't understand why he chose me for this. I have no experience managing anything, let alone something this complex. Experience isn't what William values most, Emily said, echoing Victoria's earlier sentiment. He trusts your instincts, your judgment under pressure. She smiled. If it helps, I wasn't much older than you when he promoted me to program coordinator after just 4 months. How's William doing? Have you heard anything about the surgery? Still in recovery, but Victoria says it went well. Emily's expression softened. He's stronger than he looks, Ethan. This isn't his first health challenge. As Emily left, Ethan's phone chimed with a text from his mother. Working late tonight? Abby's making her famous lasagna. The simple message triggered a pang of guilt. In the whirlwind of recent developments, he'd had little time for his family. Despite the financial stability his job had brought them, his physical and emotional presence had become increasingly limited. "Save me a piece," he texted back. "Important work project. We'll explain later." The next week established new patterns in Ethan's life. Mornings began with program oversight meetings, afternoons with site visits to the Foundation's various local operations, and evenings with reports and planning sessions. The teenagers he'd been mentoring, including Marcus, were temporarily assigned to other staff, though he made efforts to maintain those connections when possible. One evening, as he reviewed budget allocations in William's now vacant office, Victoria arrived with a security-sealed envelope. "This requires your immediate attention," she said, her typical formality tinged with unusual urgency. "A situation has developed in one of our strategic initiatives." Inside the envelope, Ethan found reports about a foster care facility in a neighboring county, one supposedly providing specialized care for children with medical needs. Allegations of neglect and financial misconduct had emerged, but local authorities were moving slowly, hampered by the facility director's political connections. "William had been monitoring this situation for months," Victoria explained. "We have credible information that conditions are deteriorating rapidly for the children." "What's our response?" Ethan asked, studying the documentation. "That's what we need you to decide." Victoria's expression was carefully neutral. "William left specific instructions that this would be your first major test. You have 3 options outlined on page 4. The options ranged from applying formal pressure through legal channels, slow but safe, to a coordinated media exposure campaign, faster but less controlled, to a direct intervention involving the removal of the most vulnerable children, to foundation care, immediate but legally complex and potentially risky. Ethan felt the weight of the decision acutely. 38 children were living in potentially dangerous conditions. Every day of delay meant continued suffering, yet hasty action could create other complications. "I need more information," he said finally. "Current conditions verified by someone we trust, and I want to understand exactly what happens to these kids in each scenario." Victoria smiled, the first genuine smile Ethan had seen from her. "That's exactly what William hoped you'd say. Neither immediate action nor excessive caution, but balanced judgment." She stood. "Emily will connect you with our assessment team. They can be on site within hours." The next 48 hours were the most intense of Ethan's life. Reports from the assessment team confirmed the facility's deteriorating conditions, with several children requiring immediate medical intervention. After consulting with Victoria and Emily, Ethan authorized a hybrid approach: legal action coupled with a carefully managed information release to selected journalists, creating pressure that led to an emergency inspection. By the 3rd day, the facility was under state control, its director suspended pending investigation, and arrangements were underway to transfer the children to appropriate care settings, including some to Whitmore Foundation programs. "Well done," Victoria said when the situation had stabilized. "William will be pleased." "It wasn't just me," Ethan insisted. "The assessment team, the legal staff, Emily, everyone knew exactly what to do." "Yes, but they needed someone to make the final call, to take responsibility for the decision and its consequences. That was you." Victoria studied him thoughtfully. "You're growing into this role faster than any of us expected." As Ethan left the foundation that evening, exhausted but satisfied, he spotted a familiar face waiting near the entrance. Lily, sitting on a bench swinging her legs anxiously. "Ethan!" she called, jumping up. "Miss Clara said you were super busy with important work, but I really needed to see you." "What's wrong?" he asked, immediately concerned. "Are the twins okay?" "They're fine," Lily hesitated, then blurted out, "There's a family that wants to adopt us, all 3 of us together." The news sent a complex wave of emotions through Ethan, joy for Lily and her brothers, but also a surprising sadness at the thought of them leaving the foundation. "That's amazing, Lily. Tell me about them." As they sat on the bench together, Lily described the potential adoptive family with cautious excitement, a couple who had specifically sought siblings to adopt, both educators, with a house near the beach, and a golden retriever named Maple. They've visited 5 times, Lily explained. They even learned how to take care of the twins' special needs, but she trailed off, suddenly uncertain. But what? What if they change their minds? Lily's voice trembled slightly. What if they decide it's too much work, or that I'm too... or... Hey, Ethan interrupted gently. Remember what Mr. Whitmore always says? Family belongs together. This couple understands that. They specifically chose to keep you 3 together. Mr. Whitmore promised we wouldn't be separated, Lily said quietly. But he's sick now. What if things change? Mr. Whitmore's promises don't depend on his health, Ethan assured her. The foundation, all of us, will make sure you and your brothers stay together, whether with this family or here until the right family comes along. Lily studied his face, searching for certainty. You promise? I promise. Ethan's voice was firm, reflecting a confidence that surprised even him. Weeks ago, he would have hesitated to make such a commitment. Now, understanding the Foundation's resources and principles, he knew it was a promise he could keep. As they walked back inside, Lily's hand small but trusting in his, Ethan felt a new sense of purpose solidifying within him. The Foundation wasn't just a job or even a career. It was becoming a calling, a channel for the same instinct that had led him to help Lily that day at the store. Later that night, finally home for a late dinner with his mother and sister, Ethan shared an edited version of his week's activities. Their pride in his new responsibilities was evident, though tinged with concern about his increasing work hours. Just don't forget about us little people when you're running the whole place, Abby teased. As if you'd let me, Ethan replied, grateful for his sister's ability to keep him grounded. After dinner, as he helped his mother with dishes, she observed him with the knowing look that had always seen straight through him. This work means a lot to you, doesn't it? She asked quietly. Ethan nodded, struggling to articulate the transformation he felt occurring within himself. It's like I've found something I didn't even know I was looking for. Mary smiled, understanding in her eyes. That's rare, Ethan. Most people spend their whole lives searching for that feeling. As he lay in bed that night, Ethan reflected on how dramatically his life had changed in just 2 months. From cashier to foundation leader, from struggling to make ends meet to helping shape policies that affected hundreds of children's lives. The responsibility was enormous, but for perhaps the first time, he felt equal to the challenge. His phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Surgery successful. Recovery begun. Well done with Riverside facility situation. Keep trusting your instincts. WW. The simple message filled Ethan with renewed determination. Whatever tests lay ahead, he would face them with the same clarity of purpose that had guided his decision that day at Walker's Convenience. The decision that had changed everything. Autumn arrived, bringing crisp mornings and earlier sunsets to the city. 3 months into his expanded role at the Foundation, Ethan had developed a rhythm that balanced his professional responsibilities with family time. His mother's health had improved with reduced work hours, and Abby was thriving in her first semester at State. You've got a visitor, Emily announced, poking her head into Ethan's office one Tuesday afternoon. Catherine Reynolds is here. Ethan looked up from his laptop, surprised. Though he'd spoken with Catherine occasionally by phone regarding the Walker's Convenience case, he hadn't seen her in person since their initial meeting. Send her in, he said, quickly organizing the scattered papers on his desk. Catherine entered, with the confident stride of someone accustomed to commanding attention. Her crisp pantsuit and no-nonsense demeanor reflected her prosecutor's background. Sorry to drop by unannounced, she said, accepting his offer to sit. I thought you'd want to hear this in person. The Walker's Convenience investigation is complete. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. What happened? The evidence was overwhelming once we started digging. Blake Chambers has been charged with multiple counts of theft and fraud. His father faces charges for covering up the crimes and falsifying business records. Catherine's expression remained professional, but satisfaction gleamed in her eyes. The district manager is cooperating in exchange for reduced charges. And Lucas? Protected as a whistleblower. He's already been promoted to assistant manager under the new management. She paused. The company also wants to offer you your position back, with back pay and a formal apology. Ethan blinked, taken aback. The vindication he'd once desperately wanted now felt strangely hollow. I'm not interested in going back. Catherine smiled knowingly. I told them you'd probably say that. You found something better. After she left, Ethan sat quietly processing the news. Justice had finally come for Blake and his father. Yet he felt no triumph, only a sobering awareness of how different his life might have been without that pivotal moment of termination. His phone buzzed with a text from Lucas. Just heard the news. Can't believe those jerks are finally getting what they deserve. Drinks to celebrate? As Ethan typed his reply, agreeing to meet that weekend, he reflected on the strange interconnectedness of events that had brought him here. If he hadn't been fired, he would never have met William, never discovered his true calling, never had the opportunity to impact so many lives. Sometimes, he realized, what appears to be our greatest setback becomes the doorway to our greatest purpose. Blake's dishonesty and his manager's injustice had inadvertently launched Ethan into a life more meaningful than he could have imagined. Justice had indeed unfolded, not just in a legal sense, but in the broader pattern of his life, transforming what was meant for harm into something unexpectedly good. William Whitmore's recovery had progressed steadily through October, with periodic updates reaching Ethan through Victoria. Though still confined to his private medical facility, William had begun conducting limited foundation business remotely, occasionally joining video conferences to offer guidance on complex situations. He's asking for you specifically, Victoria, informed Ethan one chilly November morning. Can you visit this afternoon? William appeared stronger than during Ethan's last visit, sitting up in a chair rather than confined to his bed. Yet something in his expression sent a ripple of concern through Ethan. You've exceeded my expectations, William said after they exchanged greetings. Victoria tells me the foundation has never run more smoothly. That's the team's doing, not mine, Ethan demurred. William waved away his modesty. Leadership matters. You've grown into the role remarkably quickly. He paused, his expression turning serious. Which is fortunate, because I need you to assume even greater responsibility for the foreseeable future. Has something happened? Ethan asked, tension building in his chest. A complication. William's voice remained steady, but Ethan detected the effort it took. The procedure was successful, but they've discovered additional issues requiring more extensive treatment. The implications settled heavily between them. How serious? Serious enough to necessitate my complete withdrawal from foundation operations for at least 6 months. William held Ethan's gaze. Possibly longer. Ethan struggled to process this news. 6 months was far longer than the initial recovery period they'd planned for. What does this mean for the foundation? It means you continue as you have been, but with formal authority rather than temporary oversight. William gestured toward a folder on the side table. Victoria has prepared the necessary documents. The board has already approved the arrangement. As they discussed the practical aspects of this transition, Ethan sensed William was holding something back, something beyond the medical complications he'd mentioned. Their meeting was interrupted by a call that William took privately, asking Ethan to step outside briefly. When he returned, William's demeanor had changed subtly, a new urgency in his manner. We need to accelerate our timeline, he said without preamble. Victoria will meet you at the foundation within the hour to complete the transfer of authority. What's happened? William hesitated. A situation has developed with one of our international branches. Nothing you need to concern yourself with yet, but it requires immediate attention from our crisis team. That evening, after signing numerous legal documents with Victoria, Ethan returned home feeling the weight of his expanded responsibilities. He had just settled at the kitchen table with a sandwich when his phone rang. Emily's number. Her voice was tight, controlled in a way that instantly alarmed him. "Ethan, you need to come back to the foundation. Now." "What's wrong?" A pause, then. "It's William, he's gone." The world seemed to tilt beneath Ethan. "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" "Cardiac arrest about an hour ago. They couldn't revive him." Emily's professional composure cracked slightly. "Victoria's gathered the senior staff. We need you here." The Foundation building was eerily quiet when Ethan arrived. Staff members moving through the halls with shocked expressions and hushed voices. In the conference room, Victoria stood at the head of the table, her face pale but composed. William prepared extensively for this possibility, she began once everyone was seated, though none of us expected it so soon. As Victoria outlined the succession plans William had established, Ethan felt a profound sense of loss combined with disbelief. The man who had transformed his life, who had seemed to see possibilities in him that Ethan himself couldn't recognize, was gone. And somehow, incomprehensibly, Ethan now found himself responsible for carrying forward William's legacy. The days following William's death passed in a blur of arrangements and responsibilities. Victoria guided Ethan through complex legal processes, while Emily managed the foundation staff's emotional response to their leader's unexpected passing. 1 week after the funeral, Ethan found himself in the offices of Harrington and Walsh, William's longtime legal counsel. The atmosphere was solemn, as Mr. Harrington, a distinguished attorney in his 70s, addressed the small gathering of foundation leadership. Mr. Whitmore's testamentary instructions were precise and extensive, he began, adjusting his glasses. In addition to provisions for the foundation's continuity, he left specific personal directives. Ethan listened numbly as the attorney detailed William's bequests to longtime staff members. Then Mr. Harrington's gaze settled on him. To Ethan Matthews, I leave primary stewardship of the Whitmore Foundation and affiliated organizations, with governance oversight by the existing board of directors. Murmurs rippled through the room. Ethan sat frozen, certain he'd misheard. Additionally, the attorney continued, Mr. Matthews inherits my personal residence and a trust established for his educational advancement and family support. Victoria squeezed Ethan's arm gently, grounding him as the attorney continued. Mr. Whitmore left you this letter, Mr. Harrington said, handing Ethan an envelope. His instructions were that you read it privately. That evening, alone in William's, now his office, Ethan finally opened the letter with trembling hands. Ethan, if you're reading this, my time came sooner than expected. Don't mourn too deeply. My life's purpose was to create something lasting, and in you I've found its continuation. You're wondering why I chose you. The answer is simple. In that moment at the store, when you thought no one was watching, you revealed your true character. Everything since has only confirmed what I saw then. The foundation isn't just an organization. It's a mission to transform suffering into purpose, just as your own difficulties led you to where you are now. Trust yourself, Ethan. You're ready for this, even if you don't believe it yet. With faith in your future, William. Ethan lowered the letter, tears blurring his vision. The weight of inheritance, not just of assets but of purpose, settled upon him fully. Ethan was adapting to his new role when Jessica appeared at the foundation, as unexpected as a summer storm in December. His ex-girlfriend stood in the reception area, more elegantly dressed than he remembered, wearing a hesitant smile. I heard about your promotion, she said. I thought maybe we could catch up. Her sudden interest, after disappearing when he lost his store job, wasn't subtle. Over coffee, her hints about rekindling their relationship grew increasingly transparent. We were good together, Ethan. Looking at her, Ethan felt nothing but clarity. He'd changed fundamentally since they'd parted, found purpose beyond himself. I think we're better on separate paths, Jessica, he said gently. As she left, Ethan felt the final ghost of his past life depart with her. While organizing William's personal study, Ethan discovered a locked cabinet that Victoria's master key opened. Inside lay dozens of journals spanning 4 decades. Reading them late into the night, Ethan learned the full story of William's transformation, from privileged heir to anonymous philanthropist. The journals revealed William's deliberate strategy of identifying people at critical junctures in their lives, testing their character through unplanned challenges. The most recent journal contained observations about Ethan himself, dating back months before their meeting. Observed EM again today. Gives half his lunch to homeless veteran when he thinks no one is watching. Potential candidate for succession plan. Need final test of character under pressure. Ethan closed the journal, understanding at last that their fateful meeting had been anything but chance. 1 year after William's passing, Ethan stood at the podium during the Whitmore Foundation's annual gala. The ballroom was filled with supporters, staff, and families whose lives had been transformed by their work. William Whitmore saw potential where others saw only problems. Ethan began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. He taught me that true wealth lies not in what we accumulate, but in what we give away. From the front row, Lily smiled up at him, now thriving with her adoptive family. Beside her sat Marcus, recently accepted to college with a foundation scholarship. Our greatest legacy isn't measured in buildings or bank accounts, but in the lives we touch, Ethan concluded, and in the kindness we show when we think no one is watching. As applause filled the room, Ethan felt William's presence, not as ghost, but as a continuing inspiration guiding him forward.